Hello and welcome in, you guys. My name is Sai, and today we are here to break down One Piece chapter 1136, theorize around it, have some fun with it, all that good stuff. And yeah, it has been quite some time. It's been about 2.5 weeks since we got 1135, so it feels really good to be back, and we came back with an amazing chapter. So getting right into it, Yamato's cover page journey takes an interesting turn. So last week we beat Hold'em. Well, I say we, but it was Tama. Tama kicked this guy in the teeth, and now he is our hostage, and he is leading us back to his base. But his base isn't just like a house or like a hut. No. It's a building with who's head on it. I remember reading the spoilers, and I read this segment, and I was like, wait, what does that mean? Who's head? And then looking at it, I'm like, oh, they literally mean his head. Like, they molded it to who's devil fruit transformation because it has the saber-toothed tiger tusks going through the roof. And it's like, bro, they're wanted criminals. Unless something changed and we simply didn't know about it, they should still be wanted, right? Like, they worked for Kaido for a long time. They helped enslave Wano. Like, these aren't good people. So it's crazy that they have a building in Wano that is straight up conspicuous. Like, you look at that building and you're like, okay, I know who lives here, right? Like, it's not gonna surprise me who I'm gonna find in there. So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if we find who's who in this building, and maybe the other Tobiropo as well. Because the Tobiropo are all missing. Right, when Aramaki came to Wano, he only took down King, Queen, Babanuki, and a couple of fodder characters who don't have names, and we didn't see Jack, we didn't see any of the Tobiropo, so it's like, yeah, like, there's a good chance that these guys are still lingering around Elbaf. I will say, though, I am shocked that it's who's head, because like I said, Jack is MIA. If somebody were to take control of the Tobiropo, I really did think it would be Jack. So seeing who's head is very odd. Maybe Jack is off to the side doing his own thing, and then the Tobiropo are doing their own thing as well. Like, the group fully disbanded. I'm not too sure. But one thing I do want to pose, though, is whose side is Hold'em on right now? Because we don't see his face. And the reason I bring that up is because Tama could very easily give this guy a Kibidongo, and he would be very loyal to us. And maybe the whole hostage situation is a ruse to get inside of here. I could totally see that being the case. And of course, like, since Tama has that ability, why not just do it, right? You know, we wouldn't have to deal with Hold'em ever again. Like, it is the simplest solution. But yeah, I think this is gonna be a lot of fun. I do wonder if these guys are the ones who have been kidnapping women, and Minatomo. Minatomo is not a woman, but he's like the one guy who has been kidnapped, so I want to throw him in there as well. And also the one who stole Yasui's blade. I don't know what they would do with any of these, though, right? Like, it just feels odd right now. Like, we go inside, we see who's who, and let's say, hypothetically, they have everything. You see Minatomo in the corner, you see a bunch of women, you see Yasui's blade, and you see the Tobiropo, and it's like, wait, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make sense. But I think I just don't see the grand picture yet. You know, like, I haven't heard anybody bring up a good idea as to why they're doing this. Minatomo, it could be because they want to build something. Actually, build something. Maybe Minatomo built the castle. Actually, yeah, this looks like Wano architecture, yeah? Yeah, like the way the roof is up, the windows. Maybe Minatomo did this. They said, hey, like, who can build us a secret base of operations in the middle of Udon? Ooh, let's kidnap Minatomo, who is in Udon. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, I think that's what this is. Yeah. They got that guy working like a slave. Damn. I will say this, though. The minute Yamato, Speed, Hold'em, and all these guys go inside of here, I do think the Tobiropo is done. I mean, as much as I love those guys, as much as I love villains, Yamato, man, like, Yamato's kind of strong, right? Like, oh, dude, Yamato just goes in there, hybrid form. I think she kind of destroys all of them right off rip. But of course, that's my opinion, right? We did see who's who put up a decent fight against... No, he didn't put up a decent fight. Who's their strongest member? Would it be who's who? I think so, huh? Yeah, who's who? I mean, Black Maria's like right up there. I mean, Sasuke did pretty good against Frankie as well. Ulti page 1, I had crazy duo. Yeah, I don't know. Like, they're strong, but they're not Yamato rooftop level clashing with Kaido strong. You know what I mean? So I really do think that Yamato has this in the bag. The weakest member here would be Tama. Like, if they kidnap Tama, that might be kind of bad, and then Tama has to do the whole hold them thing again. But that's yet to be seen. I'm just kind of speculating now. So now, on to the chapter of One Piece. We got page 1. Luffy is eating some big old dinosaur meat, and he's loving it. Not actually dinosaur meat. That is the meat of the moose that Hardin and Stanson beat, I think, like 3 or 4 chapters ago. Yeah, they brought it up here. It has finished roasting and cooking, and now Luffy is enjoying that nice, juicy meat. Ja Rule is still ridiculously large. Last chapter, we kind of talked about that a little bit, how Ja Rule, in the Vivid cards at least, was stated to be shorter than Brogy. And then last chapter, he was double his size. And it's like, oh, maybe that's a mistake. Maybe that's a weird angle. But we come to this chapter, and he's still large, man. Ja Rule is massive. And I kind of wonder if there will be like an explanation, like, hey, you know, Ja Rule hit, you know, a late age growth spurt. You know, when you hit 350 years old as a giant, you just get a little bit bigger. Or maybe he's wearing stilts. You know, we don't see his feet, so maybe he's like that guy from Long Ring Long Land, and maybe he just has crazy wooden stilts. We're not too sure. Maybe this could even do with Louis Arnaud. I know people really liked the gigantification idea, but I mean, Ja Rule's here, but so are the other giants, so aren't they big as well? A lot of weird questions. Maybe Oda just retconned this too. I feel like that's very plausible. Besides Ja Rule, though, if you look at the bottom of that celebration page, you'll actually see Colin hitting the Sun God Nico run and just running off to the side. We actually don't see Colin for the rest of the chapter, which I thought was a little bit interesting. And I'm like, okay, where could Colin go? Is he getting blended into the background with all the other giants? Is he just laughing and having fun and we just don't see it? I don't know. I do like the idea, though, that Colin is going to grab his dad. Because his dad is human. We haven't seen his dad yet. You know, Ripley's here. The heroes are here. Why not bring your dad to the party? It's kind of odd that he isn't here already, if anything. We do know, though, that Colin should be seeing his dad pretty soon, if not already, because when he left the bar off the coast of Elbaf, the bartender said, hey, Colin, here's food for your dad and Ripley. And it's like, okay, he dropped the food off for Ripley, but what about the dad, right? Like, where's the dad at? So I think it'd be pretty cool if the dad makes an arrival to the party. But of course, we come to find out later that Luffy, Zoro, and Nami, they leave the party. So if he does show up, hopefully we get that interaction with Usopp, Sanji, Brook, Jinbei, and everybody else who's still here. So Ja Rule goes on and makes some light conversation, and he says that humans typically don't make it up to the Sun Realm because they get scared of the underworld. They arrive on Elbaf, they see the cold weather, they see the giant animals, and they're like, yep, we're out of here. You know, it's not worth it. We're fleeing for our lives. And that makes a lot of sense. But here's the thing. While this could be some small talk, this could also have some bigger implications for the future of Elbaf. Because we know that the giants love seeing other races. They were really enamored by Jinbei. King Harold, when he was alive, he wanted to open Elbaf up to the outside world. The giants typically don't mind humans either, right? So it's like, okay, if they want to be this open country, if they want to be welcoming and inviting and open to all these different cultures, they should make it a little bit easier for people to come here. And I know what you're saying, Sai, you're looking too deep into this, but Loki, 3-4 chapters ago when we first met him, he did mention that the underworld used to be the sun god's domain, but right now it isn't. So I'm like, yo, like, we really need to fix up that underworld, right? We need to get rid of the blistering cold wasteland. We need to tame these animals. Like, we need to make this a little bit easier for people to come around. Or at least that's what I think right now, right? Maybe they don't feel the same way, but I'm like, yo, if you want tourists, you know, clean up the front door. So we see Usopp, and he's talking about Oars from Thriller Bark. He's like, yeah, listen up, guys. Oars, he's a mighty warrior even to the giants. He'd tower any of you 3 times over. Looks at Ja Rule. Ja Rule's like literally doing that right now. So yeah, Usopp goes on, and he gasses up Oars, and he's like, who's the one who took him down? Me, baby. I'm the guy who did it. And then you got people cheering him on. Somebody said, woo, way to go, Captain Usopp. And it's so funny, dude. I love that they bring up Oars here, though, because we should be getting some Oars backstory or like ancient giant backstory, because they're a spin off of the giants, right? They're called ancient giants. So I like to imagine the giants know something about those guys. Also, we come to find out that there is like this ancient text here in Elbaf called the Harley text, and it's written in an ancient language. So I'm like, okay, like at some point, somehow, some way, the ancient giants might just tie to that too. So we see Jinbei, he's having fun at the party. He's over here being enamored, like I said, by the giants. They're like, whoa, like your skin, man, it's blue. Like, I want to see a mermaid. I want to go to Fishman Island. And it's just so funny. It's kind of adorable, really. It's also funny because Jinbei is so small. So I bet to these guys, Jinbei's kind of like a guppy, or he's like a little goldfish. Like if I was a giant, I'd almost want to put Jinbei in a tank and just let him swim around. And then we have Brook, who's also getting the same treatment. They're like, oh, and you there. What are you? Like they look at this skeleton with an afro and they're just really confused. And Brook kind of confuses them even more. So Brook says, who, me? I can answer with my own blues. My, quote, what the heck am I ditty? Yeah. And that's like, wait a minute, Brook. That doesn't make any sense. You're going to sing them a song? We don't see the rest of the song, but it's like, does Brook actually explain what he is? Like, just say you're a devil fruit, man. Just say you're a devil fruit. But Brook, brooking it up over here. And then we have Roto making an appearance to the party. Finally, he's no longer being crucified, but he has been beaten brutally. So brutally, in fact, that it looks like part of his hair, at least for one panel, it turns white. Like that's how badly this guy was beaten. I love small details, by the way, but it's cool that when Roto shows up, Nami is really shocked. She's like, gah, and then you see the shock bubble, and then Zoro's just like cool as a cucumber because he saw him coming. He could sense Roto possibly. So Roto says, hey, Nami Tasso and the other Straw Hat guy, I want to apologize for what I did. He talks a little bit about how the giants forced him to apologize, but deep down he likes it. This guy's kind of like a masochist. He's like, oh, Gerd, I love it when she makes me do this. He's really just one of the boys, to be honest. Zoro says, don't sweat it. Nobody died. But let me tell you, if Usopp wasn't here, voice crack. If Usopp wasn't here, you'd be dead, man. And then Roto's like really scared. It's so funny, man. People are going to hate it. But I love that Roto has become a constant here in Elbaf. I'm not even joking. I'm looking at all the Roto panels now and later, and it's like, dang, like this guy, man, he's like a main character here, right? He is slave number 3 after all, in contest with Zeus and Sanji. Because Zeus pops out later and he's like, hey, Roto, don't forget your place. I'm slave number 1. Sanji's slave number 2. You? Slave number 3. I thought that was hilarious. So Gerd walks up to Zoro and says, hey, if he acts out next time, make sure not to hold back, make sure to just kill him. And Roto, again, in his inner monologue, says that he actually likes how she's treating him. Roto does kind of apologize even more, though. He's like, guys, like, you can't blame me, though. I just wanted to be like the sun god. Hell, all of the giants here want to be like the sun god. And Roto's like, yeah, I just wanted to rule, man. Like, I wanted to be just like him. And then that is when the giants kind of burst out and start talking about their different variations or different ideas of what the sun god truly is. So one guy says, are you kidding me? The sun god isn't a ruler, Roto. Another one says, that's right. He's the god of liberation. Another one says more like the god of destruction. And then we have another person chiming in and they say, you're all wrong. Everyone knows he was the god of laughter. And I'm like, dude, what is Oda doing here? Right? We're on an island where we know that Luffy is sun god Nika. And then we also know that Loki ate a potential sun god devil fruit. At first, it was like, okay, maybe Loki is mistaken his fruit. Maybe Elbaf has been passing down a bad or fake or different devil fruit from what they actually think they have. But now that Oda's bringing this up, saying, oh, the giants don't know what the sun god truly is, I think it does open the door for another sun god variant. Luffy can be sun god Nika, the Nika that we know and love, but Loki could very well just be another sun god Nika, but with different abilities perhaps. Luffy could be the sun god of liberation, and then Loki could be the sun god of destruction. Or maybe Oda's gonna flip it on its head, and Luffy's the destruction one, and Loki is the liberation one. I think it'd make more sense if Luffy's the liberating one, though. I feel like the themology is there. With everything Luffy has done so far in the series, I think Luffy is the liberator. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And we do know, thanks to Dr. Vegapunk in chapter, I think 1071, that devil fruits are based on beliefs, desires, and dreams. Well, if the giants are fighting over what the sun god really is, then yeah, like this could be what spawns 2 different devil fruits. They said that as long as people believe in Nika, the Nika devil fruit will spawn. Well, these guys can't agree on what Nika really is. Is he a god of liberation? Is he a god of destruction? They are divided. But the one thing that they can agree on, or at least what this one random giant whose face we don't see says, they say that everybody knows he was the god of laughter though. So that right there is what I think is going to be the one commonality. While Luffy and Loki might have differing sun god Nika fruits, at the end of the day, these guys are going to be laughing it up. You know, they're going to be having a hoot and a holler about it. So Ja Rule comes in and tells us why there's so much indecisiveness as to what Sun God Nika truly is. And that's because of the sacred Harley text. I love the name, by the way. I don't know why, but I just always think about Harley Davidson. And of course, earlier in Elbaf, we had that guy in Roto's Playhouse riding a grasshopper like he was riding a Harley Davidson. So I just like to imagine it might be related, but who knows, who knows. So we go on, and he says that they cannot read it because it is written in an archaic language. That right there, man. I don't know about you guys, but that sounds like a job for Nico Robin. I kind of wonder if this is the same language that the poneglyphs are written in. I don't think so right off rip. I feel like this could just be something brand new entirely, because the reason why I say that is Saul's existence. Saul has all the research from Ohara. You know, he potentially has all the poneglyph research as well. So if it was simply in poneglyph language, I would like to imagine Saul could translate it. Maybe I'm giving Saul too many bones there, but yeah, that's simply how I think right now. But either way, though, I feel like with Saul and Robin on this island, there is no way we do not decipher this. Maybe this right here is what makes us stay on the island longer as well. Because a lot of people are kind of wondering, like, how long are we going to be here? Will it be a week? Will it be a month? Will we have to fight here, then we leave? Not too sure, but, you know, let's say the God Knight plotline gets wrapped up and that's all good. Maybe we stay here until Robin finishes deciphering the Harley text. Because this feels like one of those things that we just can't simply hear about and just never see or never research, right? Robin wants to uncover the true history of the world. This is kind of her dream. So I do think we will stay here at least until we figure out what Harley was trying to tell us. I say Harley in quotation marks because we don't know if Harley is a person or if that's simply what they call the text. So while the giants don't know a majority of what the Harley text is trying to say, they do know that according to the text though, that the world has been destroyed twice already. What? Are we talking about by Emu? Are we talking about by Joy Boy Nika? Like, we don't really know. Like, there's so much ambiguity here. I mean, even Ja Rule says it, right? He said the name Sun God Nika is invoked after each instance. Who can say if he was the world's savior or the great destroyer who brought it crashing down? All we know for sure is that the sun god heralds great change. That's why rulers of the day always tend to fear Nika's return. And we actually see another depiction of Nika. And it's like, yo, I see what Oda's doing here, man. We got, like I said, 2 sun gods, man. We got the liberation one. We got the destruction one. We don't know which one is which. So I think that's really interesting. And another thing that sets this sun god Nika apart from the previous one is the weaponry as well. The other sun god had a sword and a spear. This sun god has a sword. It looks like a sword. It could be a dagger because of the way he's holding it. And then on the other hand, he has a shield. And it's like, bro, like, what is going on here? Of course, a lot of astute people also pointed this out too, but we got a massive, massive sword that's launched into the ground here at Elbaf. Both sun gods have a sword. That is the one commonality they have, right? Minus the laughter, minus the white clouds. The one common ground that both sun gods have is the sword. So I do think that the sword we see here in Elbaf was probably formerly wielded by the sun god. I don't think that's super crazy to say. But yeah, the next thing I want to talk about is the world that has been destroyed. I'm going to be honest, despite that being a very on-the-nose statement, I'm not super sure what they mean by that yet, right? Because we could easily say, oh, like, you know, Emu destroyed the world a long time ago. You know, Emu flooded the world. A lot of places died. Yeah, he's the one who they're talking about here. But they could very well also be talking about here in Elbaf, right? Because we have the heaven world, the sun world, and the underworld, or realms if you prefer that terminology. So maybe that's what they're talking about. Like, oh, you know, the sun god or somebody else destroyed the worlds of Elbaf. I think that's the one thing I'm kind of stuck on right now. I think both are good. Don't get me wrong. Whether you think it's Elbaf that got destroyed or the world that got destroyed, I think there's a lot of cases to say both probably happened. And the reason I brought up Elbaf as well is because Elbaf is weird. Right? That Atom Tree, like, it looks odd. Where the Sun Realm is, it looks like somebody took a sword. Well, you know, there is a giant sword here. It looks like somebody took a sword and tried to cut it in half. And I'm just like, yo, is that what happened here? I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, I think there are really good arguments for both sides. I think even both could just be true altogether. But that's just me. That's just me. And also, the reason why I do think the Atom Tree got cut in the first place, that's kind of a funny way to put it, is because we saw an Atom Tree back in Film Gold. It is confirmed that back in Guild Tesoro ship, there was an Atom Tree there, and it didn't have that weird divot. Of course, it's not as old as the one here in Elbaf, but it doesn't seem natural, right? It doesn't look like it's supposed to naturally be there. But like I said, that's just me. That's just me. So they go on, and Luffy's like, yo, the Sun God, that's the guy that Bonnie mentioned. Ja Rule goes on a little bit more. Like, yeah, like they say Nika is adorned by white clouds, confirming that the sun gods are named Nika. You know, because a lot of people are just saying sun god, but finally, Ja Rule's like, yeah, Nika. He has white hair, white clouds, and he's always laughing. It's contagious laughter. Luffy says, oh, now I get it. That's why a lot of people say that me and this Nika guy are kind of similar. And then Ja Rule's eyes, man, his eyes kind of like widen a little bit, kind of like the Squidward meme. And I'm like, man, just ask him to go Sun God Nika mode. Because Luffy can. Luffy has, like, stretched around for fun. You know, he's over here going Gear 5th for a snake. It's like, yo, Luffy could totally go Gear 5th and just whip it out for all the giants to see. Because that would be a crazy reaction, right? That right there would really make this a party, right? I don't know. And plus, that would clear up so much debate. Dude, if Luffy just went Sun God Nika mode, they could have just hammered it in saying, hey, you are that guy, man. Like, you don't have the Gomu Gomu no Mi, Luffy. But then again, I do feel like Luffy is slowly getting there, right? Luffy's at least acknowledging that they're similar. And I've seen people give Luffy some pushback here saying, oh, why is he so dense? But I understand it. Like, Luffy has had, or he thought he had the Gomu Gomu no Mi for the entire series ever since he was a kid. So it makes sense that it just doesn't automatically believe that he is Nika, right? He's not a giant of Elbaf. He didn't grow up with these stories. He doesn't know anything about it. So yeah. Luffy, you know what? You still have the Gomu Gomu no Mi, brother. So we got Hardin, Stanson, and we also got Goldberg here. And they're kind of laughing it up. They're like, hey, Strawhat, don't be so dismissive about that notion. You'd understand if you were born here in Elbaf. We all look up to Nika. Not to defend Roto, but he wasn't lying about all of us sharing the same dream. And Ja Rule goes a step further, and he kind of vouches for Loki. He says Loki was exactly the same. I believe his motives for King Harold's murder was his attempt to follow in Nika's footsteps. Again, kind of hammering in that Loki is probably the sun god of destruction, right? Because his version of Nika is the type that goes around killing people. The giants end up yelling out, nothing can justify what he did, Elder Ja Rule. And Luffy says, Loki? So he's a good guy then? And then you got all the giants again screaming out, no way in hell. And here we go. We get the full-on Odin backstory. I know, I said Odin, because this is exactly what happened with Odin. Do you guys remember when we first heard about him? And they were like telling us all of his feats, like, yeah, Odin, when he was born, he threw his wet nurse to the wall. You know, as a newborn baby, he tossed her over. And then he stole people's wives. He diverted a river to swim in, and that ended up drowning an entire village. Oh man, Odin was a menace. He took over a Yakuza gang. You know, like, Odin was a Loki type character in a weird way. But, you know, to get back to the brass tacks, They say that Loki is the accursed prince. There's a prophecy before Loki was born that foretold that King Harold would be slain by his son. And then shortly after his birth, the royal steed, the horse of fortune, died. The same year, that is when Big Mom killed the legendary hero Zoro. And the tragedies kept coming. A year later, the queen herself passed on. And then the prince would go on to use his natural strength to make the realm of the dead his personal playground. He killed many of the ferocious beasts and tamed the rest. He even released a few into the village. And that was all by the age of 10. He's also an arsonist. Loki's mischief endangered countless lives. He had the authority of a prince and a malicious personality. He caused hell whenever the king wasn't looking. And then finally, he killed King Harold. Yeah, we got a lot here. Funny enough, I'm a coper. All right, when it comes to One Piece and them trying to tell your characters one way, sometimes I just kind of believe the other, or at least I leave that door open. So while I was reading through this, I was like, okay, let's think about this, right? Prophecies, I'm gonna knock you down step by step. Prophecies can be wrong. Maybe Loki didn't kill his dad, albeit I think he did later on, which we'll get to. And then we have the whole thing where the horse died. Okay, that's not Loki related. That's bad luck. The horse died. Maybe it was old. Maybe it was malnourished. Maybe it got sick. We don't know. Loki didn't do that. And then they mention Linlin. It's like, okay, Linlin isn't Loki though, right? Linlin killing Jorel has nothing to do with Loki. Yeah, maybe it's bad luck. Maybe it's a coincidence, but like, yeah, it's not Loki's fault. And then they talk about how Loki's mom died. And it's like, again, that's not Loki's fault. Like, Loki didn't kill her, did he? And then they talk about him taming animals and releasing them. And it's like, wait a minute. You guys don't like the animals either, right? Like, dude, we saw Hardin and Stanson kill the moose in the underworld. Like, nobody's crying tears for him. So yeah, you know, over here killing ferocious beasts. Why not, dude? Why not? And then he released them into the village. Maybe he wanted to play with them. Maybe the animals wanted to go to the sun realm, you know? We could justify that. And then there's Arsony. Can't really defend the Arsony, I'm gonna be honest, but maybe they were cold. You know, maybe there was like an old man. He's like, hey, dude, Loki, it's really cold in here. It's like 20 degrees. Can you turn up the heat? And then Loki just, set the guy on fire. But then again, like I said, I could justify and cope for all of that. But the last bit of information we got is that Loki was the one who tried to kill Jarl. He's the one who stabbed him in the head. And it's like, okay, I can't defend that one. That right there is a first-hand account of Loki being bad. So yeah, maybe Loki did do all of this, but I don't know yet, man. Because like I said, when we first heard about Odin, he seemed like a menace, right? If we didn't have the whole notion of him being this great guy, and we just heard his backstory, I don't know, man, So I'm still very torn on Loki. I could very well see him being a gray character. I don't think Loki at the end of the day will be good, and I also don't think Loki is evil. I feel like he's somewhere in the middle. He's like a chaotic neutral character. Is that a good way to put it? Chaotic neutral. Yeah, I think Loki is very much chaotic neutral. So while we're getting this whole spiel, we actually see a couple of really interesting snippets, because they cut over to the castle of Elbaf, and we see this giant holding a sword, and I'm like, okay, wait, is that King Harold or King Harold's statue? Because that falls in line with the King Harold dialogue. So I'm like, okay, that could be King Harold, right? This could be like a statue of King Harold just posed up. But it could also just be a giant at the castle, because we see the castle in the next shot, so it's like, wait, like, it could just be a giant that's alive? I don't know. And then also, Oda decides to, like, shadow or silhouette the face. So that's kind of why I think it's King Harold, but yeah, it's odd, it's odd. Another thing we get in that same panel is black lightning. If you look closely, you see streaks of black lightning coming from the ground, and it's like, okay, that's possibly the Holy Knights, right? The Holy Knights are probably doing their thing, probably teleporting around or fighting somebody. And then when we get a shot of the castle, we see that the front door actually has like a crack in it. And at first I was like, okay, maybe that's just some weird shading. Maybe it's because it's so, zoomed out. It just looks like there's a crack in the door. But later in the chapter, when we see the Straw Hats going to the castle, you see that crack, and it's actually even bigger now. So it does look like the Holy Knights broke through the front door, possibly to just leave the castle or whatever. But yeah, it's really interesting stuff here, man. One way or another, I think we will get the King Harold face reveal pretty soon, if the character that Oda is hiding is King Harold, or at least his statue. Because statues are pretty prominent throughout One Piece, believe it or not. Like, if you think back to a lot of islands we've been to, yeah, statues exist, huh? Statues exist. So now, for the final part of the story, they say that Loki's reign of terror finally ended 6 years ago. He was running amok at the sea when red-haired Shanks captured him. So it sounds like Shanks beat Loki and then brought him back to Elbaf, which is really funny. I wonder if he did this at the behest of the Giants. Like, maybe the Giants are like, hey, Shanks, we don't like Loki, so can you just bring him back home? Can you teach him a lesson and just bring him back or something? And that sounds like what happened, because typically, whenever the Straw Hats at least beat a pirate group, right? Think back throughout the entire series. Whenever we beat somebody, we don't take them places. You know, we don't chain them up and bring them home or take them to the next island. Caribou's kind of like an exception here, but yeah, I thought that was really funny. Like, okay, I feel like Shanks and the Giants maybe had a deal, or maybe Shanks wanted to do the Giants a favor, and that's why he brought Loki back. Also, since we now know that this is confirmed, right? Because beforehand, it was speculation, like, oh, 6 years ago, Shanks became an emperor, Loki got captured, maybe Shanks is the one who did that. Now, it is completely confirmed, Shanks is the one who did all of this. And this is possibly, like I said again, not 100% yet, but this is possibly what made Shanks an Emperor of the Sea. So some interesting dialogues I've been seeing online recently is that, oh, Shanks beat Loki? That must mean that Loki is weak. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, I don't get that mindset. I feel like fighting Shanks automatically puts you at a certain level. Like, I get it, right? Kid's kind of like a meme. Shanks came up here, one-shot Kid. Kid had a 3 billion bounty, but Kid isn't exactly weak either. Like, he is, but he isn't. You know what I mean? So I don't get the Loki downplay off of this. I think that's a little bit odd. But yeah, and plus, we have to remember that Loki did have a 2.4 billion berry bounty. The guy's nothing to scoff at. So Zoro notices Luffy perk up during this whole conversation. So he pulls Luffy to the side, and he asks him, like, hey, what is going on? And Luffy explains everything. He tells him about his promise to Loki, and Zoro's like, okay, I think Loki's lying, man. Loki killed the king. I heard the stories. I don't think Loki's a good guy. I think he's playing you. So because of that, Zoro wants to go with Luffy to see Loki. And Zoro's like, hey, Luffy, if Loki's lying, we're gonna have to put him down. Like, we're gonna have to stop this guy, which I love. Zoro is willing to go along with this plan, and he's just like, yep, if it doesn't work out, we'll just take care of it, man. Nami, who's also around the corner, says, if you're sneaking off to do what I think you are, did you seriously expect to find your way there without me? And that's all she had to say. You know, cut to the next panel. Her, Zoro, Luffy, and Rodo are taking Aceval all the way to Elbaf's castle. Kind of funny that Rodo's included in all this, by the way. Like, Rodo feels like a +1, and like I said, he feels like a prominent character now. Like, at first I was like, okay, it's a gag, it's a gag, it's a gag. Wait a minute. Rodo's coming to see Loki? Rodo's coming to the castle? The guy kind of feels like a Grand Fleet member right now, right? Just his loyalty is there, man. As long as Nami is willing to beat him stupid, Rodo will be there. So we see them fly up to the castle, and Nami talks about why she's really coming, and that's because she wants to steal the treasure from the castle. And I'm super excited to see what they're gonna see. All right, we already see that the door has been broken through, so right away, the Straw Hats are gonna be on guard. They're gonna realize that something is up, and it's like, okay, they're gonna walk through the doors, and they're either going to see dead giant guards or mummified guards. Because it's like, last we saw, you know, the girl was wrapping that dude in bandages. So I wonder what state they're left in. Either way, though, like I said, it shouldn't take too long for them to realize that something is not right? They're going to go look for the keys. The keys aren't there because the Holy Knights have them. So they're possibly going to make their way down to the underworld as soon as possible, right? Because we cut over to the underworld and a lot of things are popping off. And I do got to say, Oda has been picking up the pace. Like, I didn't think the Straw Hats would leave the party in this chapter, but here we are, man. Here we are. So, in the underworld, Loki is laughing up a storm. He says, "If I understood you correctly, then I'm afraid I'll have to step back and refuse your offer. I'm sure it's an honor to be invited to join your noble knights, but that would make you celestial dragons, right? Do you really expect anyone on the planet to willingly become scum?" The Holy Knights, fake Shanks, and the girl, they're just like, hey, do we have any intel on this guy? You know, like, what do we know about Loki? And that right there pretty much solidifies that this guy is not Shanks, because the real Shanks has intel on him. And of course, Loki knows the real Shanks. So the fact that none of them address that point, again, solidifies that this is not the real deal. This is a Shanks clone or twin brother or something. And also, it's so funny, but whenever Oda draws this guy, we only get the left side of his face. Or wait, let me see. The right side of his face, right? Oda does not want to draw the scar side because that's like a dead giveaway. I think that's absolutely hilarious. Like, how many times could Oda draw one side of a character's face? How many times? How many times? So they don't have any intel though, right? Shanks asked that, or Stabs asked that, and Gunko says all the informants we sent to Elbaf, reportedly, a giant crow is what did them in. They saw a giant crow before their transmissions got cut. Their weakness is beyond belief. Guys, we're gonna have to start putting some respect on Roto, man. I mean, without even knowing it, Roto has been helping Elbaf. Roto has been staving off world government operatives. Because that crow is Mugen. You know, they got attacked by a crow. We know a giant crow. We know somebody who does exactly that. It's Roto. And now that we know this, does that mean that the people we saw in Roto's playhouse, a majority of them, are they world government operatives? Is that what's happening here? Because that's what it sounds like, right? Because Roto kidnaps people to use them as dolls, living dolls. So yeah. Roto's crazy, man. Again, if you didn't like Roto then, maybe you'll like him now. Maybe you'll like him now. So we get the full reveal of the girl, and she looks cool. So she says, "I'm done just standing by and listening. This is the definition of impertinence." And her eyes are awesome. I love her design. Well, I'll get to the design. I love her design. The eyes are cool. One eye is normal. The other eye is inverted. And she's got these crazy bandages, right? Her arm, or her sleeve actually, turns into this spirally bandage, which we already knew she could do because of last chapter, but this time around it takes on like an arrow end. It kind of looks like Emu's tail, right? Because Emu's tail, back when Sabo was there, like, it wiggled around, it stabbed Sabo, it tried to kill King Cobra, and it's like, is this like Emu powers? Which shouldn't be shocking, right? The Gorosei kind of have Emu-like abilities, and Emu was the one who took away Saturn's powers. So I think this is another power granted by Emu. It has that connection right there. So outside of that, she has a koala, you know, Marine Navy type hat. She's got the crazy robe. She's got the button down. I love her design top to bottom. But I will admit, you know, you guys know me. As a lover of women, I gotta say it, man. Maybe we should just give her some pants. As much as I like it, you know, it is kind of odd that she just doesn't have pants right away. Like, they could have even wrapped her legs in bandages all the way up, and that would make sense. But I'm like, why is she just wearing her panties? Like, it's not just like panties, but like we could actually see like the, you know, like the bottom of it. It's like, what is going on here? And it's cold there too, man. Hey, it's cold in the underworld. I'd probably keep the robe on. Like cover me up a little bit, man. I don't know. So the fake Shanks says, "Don't be hasty, Gunko." We see a wolf pop up behind her, and Loki says, "Eat him up, wolf," which kind of funny because Loki has observation hockey. He should know that his wolf doesn't stand a chance, but he's cheering the guy on. Gunko says, "Stay back if you want to keep breathing." She wraps the wolf up, and she starts choking the wolf out. And I really like her pose. She kind of feels like a diva, right? It's like an Uta-esque pose where she throws her hand up in the air, then the wolf is like being choked. It's a good panel. It's a good panel. One thing I forgot to mention, by the way, her name. Her name is Gunko, which, according to the translations I've read, means army child. And here's the thing, you know, Oda loves keeping the thematics going with villain groups. So now that we have Gunko, we could possibly start determining what the other Holy Knight names will be. Of course, I think we need like 2 or 3 more samples before we can actually do that. But yeah, we got Gunko now. It means army child. And I will say this, I don't know if I will lock this in right away, but it's not a celestial dragon sounding name. Because we have seen a lot of celestial dragons in the series, right? We have Saint Homing, we have the Don Quixotes, we got Ethan Baron v Nasujuro, we got Saint J Garcia Sat. Like, those names kind of follow a normal thematic in a way. So having Gunko here, it just feels like the odd man out in my opinion. So I do wonder if she is another regular person who later got recruited to join the Holy Knights, right? Because if they're doing this for Loki, there's a chance they could have done this for the other Holy Knights as well. And now I'm wondering, how many Holy Knights are regular people that they scouted, and then how many Holy Knights are people who are of royal lineage, like Garling, for example, right? Because he is of royal blood. He's a celestial dragon. So it's like, what is going on here? Is it like 50-50? Is it 80-20? Or is Loki the only exception? I don't know. And this does bring back a theory that we saw pop up during God Valley. Because during God Valley, we saw a lot of notable celestial dragons, right? People are assuming they're God Knights, but we don't really have any confirmation one way or the other. But there was one guy who was wearing a gas mask. And at the time, people saw that and they said, wow, the guy with the gas mask looks like the kid from Big Mom's flashback. Because there's a kid in her flashback that has a gas mask. Like, it was 1-to-1 minus the number on the cheek. And they're like, oh, like maybe this guy's a Holy Knight. Maybe he survived Big Mom's rampage and became a Holy Knight. And I love that theory. I thought it was really good. But I did have a holdup with that. And now simply the notion of this person being a human. They're not a celestial dragon. Why would he be up there with the Holy Knights? But now that we have this recruitment thing going on, maybe he did get recruited. Maybe this gas mask kid survived Big Mom, wanted revenge, and became a Holy Knight. And I don't think that's super crazy to say as well, because Mother Carmel, her whole job was to groom kids to become agents. So who's to say that this kid didn't survive and was like, hey, I know Carmel, let me in, you know, I want to kill Big Mom. And they're like, hey, you know what? Holy Knight potential. I do think there's a reality where that could be the case. I really do. And I don't want to be that guy, but it does open the door back up for Big Mom to come back, right? Big Mom doesn't know what happened all those years ago. Big Mom still thinks that Mother Carmel and the kids of Sheephead are out there somewhere. So if that guy is a Holy Knight, Big Mom could come back and this person's like, hey, Big Mom, you killed her. You know, you ate mama. I think that'd be awesome. I don't know. Crazy tangent. Outside of Loki, though, who else could they recruit now? I feel like, you know, the world is their oyster. Loki turned down their offer. I doubt Loki's going to change his mind, right? Like, they're about to kill Loki's wolf, and Loki's like, who cares, man? If the wolf dies, that's his fate. So, since Loki doesn't want to join, who are they going to recruit next? Because they still have that open position. Garling got promoted. Somebody else probably got promoted to Supreme Commander. There is one empty slot in the Holy Knights. Who will it go to? If not Loki, I think Mihawk would be pretty fun, but I don't think Mihawk could do it either. Mihawk is like a character that wants to hang out. He doesn't want to fight. So I don't think Mihawk would take it, but I've seen people bring him up, and I thought that was cool, but I can't see it right now. Yeah, I don't really have any clue who else would join. I mean, I guess... No, I was going to say Shiki. No. I'm not going to bring up Shiki. That's beating a dead horse right there. I have heard some people saying Doflamingo, but Doflamingo's whole MO is to take down the Celestial Dragons. I don't know if I want him on there, man. If I was a Celestial Dragon, if I was a Holy Knight, I would not let Dofi in the ranks, bro. While Dofi would fit in... Guy's kind of bad, you know. He's not playing for the team. But yeah, a lot of good stuff here, man. I love that the Holy Knights are doing this. I heard somebody word it the best, but they said that the Holy Knights are hitting them like the Akatsuki, because the Akatsuki did the same thing, right? Travel in groups of 2, recruiting other strong characters. There you go. There you go. So let me see. Did I tackle everything? Of course, this explains Loki's special bounty. Loki's probably the pirate that Stabs talked about at the Reverie because he wanted to recruit him. Celestial Dragons, Shanks, Gunko, bandages, no panties. I like how that's something I wrote. I wrote no panties. About to kill the wolf. Oh, yeah, Loki. So Loki says something really interesting, or at least his wording is interesting when they're about to kill the wolf. They're like, hey, if we kill the wolf, if we let him go, join us, dude. Loki says, nope, I'm going to accept my friend's fate, and I wish him peace in death. It's okay to grieve and rage, but a warrior never kicks and screams in the face of death. I'll swallow all my fury and use it to fuel me when I reduce this world to rubble. Bro. Usopp, man. We should have brought Usopp with us, dude. Because right now we have Nami, we got Zoro, Luffy, and Rhoda. We should have brought Usopp, man. Usopp needs to take a page out of this guy's book. Well, not really. I feel like, this could come with some downsides. Like, imagine if a Straw Hat died, and Usopp, instead of, like, screaming out, like, Nami, don't die, Usopp's like, well, that's her fate. I can't see that. So maybe Usopp and Loki, they clash in ideals. Like, Usopp tells Loki, like, oh, this is what a warrior really is, and then Loki pushes back on that. I think that'll be a really, really fun dynamic. So now that Luffy and the gang are possibly going to be here pretty soon to save Loki and to save his wolf, I do wonder what's going to happen. What are these matchups going to be, dude? Is Nami going to fight the girl? Is Zoro going to fight Stabs? Is Luffy going to hop in? Are they going to free Loki? Because here's the thing, right? I'm making the assumption that Stabs and Gunko have Loki's keys already. They spawned in the castle. It looks like they broke through the doors. They know that Loki is a prisoner. So I think they have the keys. So maybe we have to fight these guys for them so that we can free Loki. But also, there is another person that could make an appearance here. And that's the man off the coast. It's definitely the man off the coast. Because last we saw, he was still in the underworld. During Louis Arnaud's message, we saw that guy walking by the giant bear. So he's nearby. There is a chance that the Straw Hats don't step in right away and save him, and instead, it's just that guy, which would be really cool, by the way. Right? People have been talking about it being Shiki. People have been talking about it being Scopper. Either way, Shiki and Scopper were both at God Valley. They both fought the Holy Knights, possibly. So they might have some history with these characters. Maybe they drop some one-liners. Maybe they tell us about God Valley in general. Oh, man. What a time to be alive. The pacing has never been better. So now, the last thing I want to talk about, but Loki. What will he do once we free him? Because we got his story this chapter, and it doesn't paint a good picture. And I've seen a lot of people saying that once we free him, he's going to attack Luffy, he's going to be a villain, and I could see that. Like I said, he's a gray character to me right now. I'm a fence sitter. I'm in the middle, right? He could be bad, he could be good. But I do think that he will err on the side of the Straw Hats, because he did make Luffy a promise. Of course, Loki is like the god of mischief in mythology. He's a tricky guy. Zoro already thinks that he might be lying to Luffy. But if he's anything like Luffy, and we've seen a lot of instances where him and Luffy kind of parallel each other with the name calling, they also have the animals, they got the sun god laugh, like they are paralleling. Loki made a promise to Luffy that if he frees him, he'll tell him about Shanks. That is more than he's giving the Holy Knights, because he called the Holy Knights scum. He doesn't want to join them. So maybe it's one of those cases where the enemy of my enemy is my friend, where Loki's like, hey, I don't like the Straw Hats. I want to destroy the world, but I want to fight the Holy Knights first. Like, I don't like these guys more than anything. I think that could be the case, but that is all just kind of speculation right now. And then, of course, like, once this happens, once all the fighting breaks loose, I want to see the Holy Knights go crazy. Personally, I don't think we're going to defeat them here. Maybe we push Gunko back a little bit. Maybe we see the powers of Stabs. But I can't imagine the Holy Knights losing yet. I don't know. Like I said, I'm a villain guy, though. I'm a little bit biased when it comes towards villains. I wish them the best, because eventually they're going to lose. Emu, Blackbeard, all the villains of the series, they will lose one day. But until they lose, I want to cherish them a little bit. You know, I want to build them up. I want to be hyped about these guys. So hopefully they show out in the next couple of chapters. Let me see. Is that everything I wanted to talk about? Sorry, I'm going down the list again in my head. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, when it comes to Loki being recruited to the Holy Knights and how odd that is, it's odd, but it's not, because we have gotten notions where characters want to become celestial dragons. A good example would be Stelly, right? Stelly looked at Garp and he was like, hey, Garp-san, like, help me, you know, pull some strings and make me a celestial. And then Garp kind of made fun of him. And that was a one-off thing. And then over on Egghead, we saw that the Gorosei made a deal with York to make her a celestial dragon. So I could see there being a world where this becomes more and more of a prominent thing. Like, hey, if you help the world government, we will give you that royalty status. And I think it'd be really interesting to play with later. Like, not just for the Holy Knights, but in general. So maybe they realize that they need more numbers, they need more people on their side. So they're like, hey, if you guys beat Nika, if you guys, you know, do this or that for us, we will grant you that celestial dragon privilege. I feel like we'll come by this more and more often as time goes on. Or at least for notable characters who are strong. With that being said, though, guys, thank you so much for listening to my rambling. I really freaking appreciate it. That is the end of my notes over here. You know, I think I tackled pretty much everything I could. I keep on looking at Gunko's panties, man. I gotta admit. And that's not like in a weird way. It's just like, dang, like,
I want to gunk all over here.
They really did her. Like, they could have just gave her some shorts, bro. We could have gave her some shorts. Or bandages. I still think bandages would have been good too. Either way, though, thank you guys so much for being here. I really freaking appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys next time. My name is Sai, and I'm signing out. And also, shameless plug, but if you haven't yet, I do have a gaming reaction channel on the side over at Syvduck. I also stream on Twitch almost every other night. And I also have an anime reaction channel at Somnus. So feel free to check those out. And if you don't want to, totally cool. Make sure to leave your theories and comments down below. I will be reading through them in the next couple of days. So yeah, with that being said, I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.